Welcome everybody to another edition of Line It Up. As always, I am Robert Dickey. Alongside me, Nick Siciliano. Nick, how's it going?
As Gus would say, everybody, it's a happy Wednesday.
A happy Wednesday, as Gus would say. We're going to get him back on the show as soon as possible. But for now, Nick and I holding it down with our best bets from this week. A pretty busy weekend last weekend, another one anticipated this weekend. All that we have left is football now. Last week of October, that's not usual, but all that we have left is football now. So let's get it started. Nick, your best bet for this week's college football slate.
Perfect. Of my bets for this week, college football, I have three that I'm pretty confident in. First off, we're going to start with Tulsa on Friday night, facing off with East Carolina. They are minus 18.5. Actually, I have them now at 17 at home against East Carolina. The over-under is sitting at 61. My play is going to be on Tulsa minus 17, and the reasoning being how bad the East Carolina defense has been throughout the year. Their run and pass defenses are amongst the worst in the country. They have a subpar passing game on the offensive side, and they turn the ball over pretty much more than anybody in the country. I think it's only 10 teams that turn the ball over more than them. And there's also a question mark there at quarterback for them. Their quarterback is questionable, and if he does not play, they will have a true freshman in there, Mason Garcia, who struggled in his first game, went 10 for 4, 104 yards passing. I don't see them playing well with him at quarterback, and that's without even talking about Tulsa's defense. Tulsa's defense is among the best in the American, and they're up there in the country.
I was going to say in the nation.
Yeah, in the country. 26th in total defensive yards per game, 36th in run defense yards per game. They only allow 3.3 yards per carry, which is really, really good, especially in college football. And they force 2.7 turnovers per game, which ranks number 4 in the country. That's among all FBS teams. They force the 4th most turnovers in the country. I think that's going to come into play big when they face off against this true freshman if he does end up playing. And I just don't see a lot of weaknesses here with this Tulsa team, especially against a team in East Carolina with so many holes. I think they can win by at least 3 touchdowns, maybe more. So give me Tulsa here minus the 17.
Yeah, I love Tulsa, just as a team in general. I mean, ever since that first game where they showed me something against Oklahoma State, it's the best team in the Big 12. Took them by, I believe it was 16-7, something like that, only allowing 16 points to Oklahoma State. That's fantastic. My first pick of the weekend is going to be Penn State plus 12 against the Ohio State University, Nick Siciliano's favorite team.
It's unfortunate.
Here's why. Penn State played one game and they lost to Indiana on a questionable 2-point conversion call in overtime, which, quite frankly, he didn't get it. Regardless, they should have never been in that spot.
He might have been in.
He was not in. Come on. He wasn't in. Penn State should have never been in that spot.
Fair.
Penn State didn't lose that game to Indiana. Penn State lost that game to themselves. 10 penalties in that game, 3 turnovers, something you simply can't do. Now, I'm not saying everything's going to be fixed overnight in a week, but let's look at the positives. Penn State only allowed 170 passing yards. Granted, it's Indiana. It's not Ohio State. No, Ohio State's going to pass for more than 170 on Penn State. But that's a really encouraging start to a defense that lost Micah Parsons to opt-out. I think that's very encouraging. What's even more encouraging, Penn State, 41 rush yards. 41. Now, I don't know about you, but Master T didn't look all that last week, the running back for Ohio State.
I don't think he's going to be the starting running back going forward, but that's besides the point. I think
he didn't look fantastic last week. Penn State might stifle him again, and there might be some changes in that Ohio State backfield. Regardless, I think that 12 is too much for a home game for Penn State, where they're going to be all jacked up. I'd love to see this line get to 14 and take it at 2 touchdowns, but I am confident betting it at Penn State plus 12. So give me the Nittany Lions.
Perfect. All right, moving on to my second pick. We have a Saturday game. It's going to be Kansas State at home against West Virginia. West Virginia is minus 3.5 here. The over-under sits at 47. And knee-jerk reaction, why this stands out to me so much, is one of me and Robert's favorite things in college football is when there is a ranked team that is an underdog to a non-ranked team. It always hits. It's almost guaranteed that the non-ranked team is going to cover it. Right now, West Virginia.
Use the G word right there.
Guaranteed, I did. Right now, I have West Virginia sitting at 3.5. I'm not sure what you have them at. I love West Virginia here for a multitude of reasons. I think they are a very well-rounded team on offense and defense. 25th in total offense, 20th in pass yard offense. I just think that they are decent enough on offense, although their run game is mediocre stat-wise, that they can rely on their defense, which is among the elite in the nation. Like I said about Tulsa, it might have been among the elite in the American. West Virginia, I'm willing to say that they have one of the best defenses in the country. They only allow 152.8 yards passing per game, which is 8th in the country ranked. They have the 18th most interceptions in the country. They play very, very, very well on defense. They only allow 3.1 defensive yards per carry, which is even better than Tulsa, I was just talking about there. The only weakness I really see with them is they commit a lot of penalties on offense. But Kansas State, on the other hand, their offense really does not impress me. 71st total offense, 71st rushing yards per game. Their pass defense is also mediocre. I like West Virginia in basically every facet of this game. And them being only a 3.5-point favorite really speaks to how much I'm confident in them here. West Virginia also throws the ball more than pretty much everybody in the country, 41.6 times per game, which is a ton. And West Virginia runs a high-paced offense, so I think they're going to run the score up here. Give me West Virginia 3.5.
Run the score up, you think so?
Yeah.
See, I'm big on that West Virginia pick. You know, like you said, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to run the score up.
I don't like Kansas State at all. I think their
defense, you don't like at all?
Their
defense hasn't been bad.
They don't score.
That's what I'm concerned about. Is this Kansas State?
They don't rack up yardage whatsoever. They're bottom quarter of the league in almost every yardage set on offense.
Like I said, I think West Virginia will cover. I don't know if West Virginia's offense is well equipped to put up 30, 40 points, but I think we could.
West Virginia is a spread offense that throws the ball a ton, does it well, and Kansas State gives up the 16th most passing first downs in the country.
Hey, I'm riding it with you. I'm not arguing the pick.
That's
I'm not
all I'm
arguing the pick at all.
All right, well,
Speaking of bad teams, some of the worst in the country, how about Syracuse? Last week, they didn't look
horrible.
as bad as we thought that they would against Clemson. And for that, or maybe it's because Wake Forest beat Virginia Tech last week, Wake Forest is only an 11-point favorite this week against one of the worst teams in the country. The worst team in the ACC, dare I say, Syracuse. Wake Forest minus 11. Hammer it. Break out the hammer. Wake Forest isn't even... They're a fantastic offensive team. They're ranking in the top half of the country in both passing and their passing attempt and attack and rushing attack rank in the top half of the country. Defense in the bottom half of the country. Luckily, they get a break against a really bad Syracuse team who only puts up 182 passing yards per game. Pretty awful, if you ask me, especially for a college football program, which should be able to sling the rock.
Yep.
They're even worse in ranking in the bottom 35 in the country as well. Syracuse has scored 6 points, 10 points, outlier 37 against a bad Georgia Tech team, 24, 21, and 21 points in their games this season. I don't think that's going to be enough to get it done against a Wake Forest team who's going to put up at least 30. I expect us to see probably somewhere close to a 40 to 20 some odd game, something like that.
Yep.
Give me Wake Forest minus 11. Love it.
Perfect. My next pick is going to come in the Texas Tech-Oklahoma game. Texas Tech is at home. The opening line was Oklahoma minus 15.5, over under 68.5. I'm not sure where it sits at now. But my main focus here is on that over under. Although I do like Texas Tech to stay under the 2 touchdown mark here, my main focus really is on the over 68.5. And the reason here is because when you look at the strengths of both teams, Oklahoma, you talk about their strengths, their passing games among the elite in college football, numbers-wise.
Even though we don't like Spencer Rattler.
Even though we don't like Spencer Rattler, they do sling the rock around. That's what they do. They throw the football, and they score a lot of points.
Absolutely.
And then you come down here and you look at Texas Tech. What do they like to do? They like to throw the football. 24th yards per game, 13th in completion percentage in college football. And what else do? They score points. So we have two teams who like to throw the ball, who like to score points. And then you look at the defenses and their weaknesses. They can't stop the pass, either one of them. They're among the worst, horrible pass defenses. So really what it boils down for me here is both teams' strengths are in the passing game on offense, which perfectly aligns with the fact that both teams are horrible in pass defense. And the high pace of play, they both run a ton of plays per game, 22nd and 25th most respectively in the country. They both have negative turnover ratios. I think this could turn into a sloppy game with a ton of points. I honestly think it's going to be probably more of a 40-40 game than a 30-30 game. I would like this over-under probably up to like right around the 74 number. I think it's off by quite a few here. So give me the over and maybe sprinkle in a little Texas Tech, but not going to lock that one straight in yet.
Well, once again, I like that pick, one that I'll also be playing myself. Much like you said earlier, you said Oklahoma versus Texas Tech. I'm going to go similar to you and go Oklahoma State and Texas.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Oklahoma State -3 in this game.
This one's on the fly.
Yeah, this one is on the fly.
This isn't on the docket
This
here.
is not on the docket, but I have it already, and I thought about it, and I remembered it, and I said, you know what? This is my favorite pick of the weekend. I can't let this one go unnoticed. Give me Oklahoma State. Texas's defense is horrendous. Let's look at some of these numbers here for Texas's defense. They are bottom 50 in pass yards per game, allowing 253 per game. Nothing compared to their 150 plus rushing yards that they allow per game as well. On the other hand, Oklahoma State is one of the best defensive teams in the country. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers up right now, but they allow just 127 rush yards, and that's actually the weakness of their defense because their passing defense game is even better, where they allow just 176 yards through the air per game. Texas is a big air team. They love to sling the rock. Sam Ehlinger, we don't believe in him. Gus does. We don't.
No.
But Sam Ehlinger loves to throw the football. Oklahoma State's not going to allow him to throw the football. And Oklahoma State's going to be able to put up points themselves. I mean, they're not a bad offense. No matter who's starting at quarterback this Saturday for Oklahoma State. Chuba Hubbard should be able to get his on the ground against this Texas defense, and the rest of the team should be carried by the defense with some pretty stellar quarterback play as well. Oklahoma State -3. Give it to me.
Perfect. I have one more quick one just because you threw it in there too, just so we can have the same amount of picks.
Go for it.
I'm going to throw here Iowa State -28.5 at home against Kansas. Talk about worst teams in the country. Kansas worst team in the Big 12.
I'd say that if you put Kansas might be the worst team in the Power 5.
They're losing to Group of 5 teams like it's their job.
Kansas versus Syracuse. Who wins? And what's the line? I think neutral field. I think Syracuse wins.
I think it's Syracuse by 3.
I was going to say 3-7, somewhere in that field goal touchdown range.
Yeah, but I don't think really Iowa State really matters here to me as much as how bad Kansas is, which could be, I don't know. They're middle of the road offensively in basically every stat. Their running game, though, is top 30 in pretty much everything, which is promising. I think they're going to be able to run all over Kansas, seeing as though they have the 84th worst run defense. They're 84th in the country run defense. They allow 5 yards a carry. That's awful. I think that they're going to be able to run all over them. Kansas doesn't score. They don't force turnovers. They only score 15 points per game, which is 93rd out of 101 FBS teams. 15 points per game. Let's not get too excited here with Kansas. And just like one of my other,
getting excited with Kansas.
no, I know.
Trust me.
Just like one of my other picks earlier today, they're going to have another quarterback questionable. They've been alternating as it is, but one of their quarterbacks is questionable, and he's the more capable of the two they've been alternating. Look for more turnovers if Jalen Daniels is out and it's Miles Kendrick in a quarterback. And just to add on to just rub salt in the wound, Kansas' star running back, Puka Williams, did opt out for unknown family reasons last week. So this offense just got even worse. So yeah, give me Iowa State here. Probably going to be buying the half a point down to 28 just to be safe here. Might as well. But yeah, I like them a lot.
All right. My final college football play of the week is Charlotte +10 at Duke. The Charlotte 49ers, not a team that everybody thinks about when they think college football, but they're pretty much Duke. When you look at it, Nick alerted me to this week, and I did some research myself. Charlotte and Duke are within 20 to 30 rankings of each other in every major statistical category, one way or another. If Duke leads in one, Charlotte leads in the other. Yeah. With the exception of turnovers, where Duke is, what was it? I believe it was second
worst turnover ratio.
Country. Second worst turnover ratio in the country.
I think it's 1.8 negative.
1.8 negative, and they are turning the ball over about 4 times a game. Yeah. Unbelievable numbers. You can't hand a team like Charlotte the ball. You can't do it, especially not if you want to cover a 10-point spread. Charlotte has played 4 games this year. They played a competitive game against App State, which they ended up losing, and a very competitive game against Florida Atlantic, which they ended up losing. But they're on a 2-game winning streak, going on the road and beating North Texas and beating UTEP, who's not bad, at home. Now they travel to Duke for a non-conference ACC game, which I expect them to cover a 10-point spread. I think they're pretty much the same team. Duke maybe wins by 3.
Yeah.
Maybe if they win at all.
Yeah.
Give me Charlotte plus 10.
Perfect. You ready to move on to NFL?
I'm very ready to move on to NFL.
Awesome. I can start us off here. I have the Raiders starting off in my first bet. I have the Raiders plus 2.5. And the major reason for this starting off, my major reason for taking the Raiders is their quarterback this year. I know nobody really likes to talk about it. He gets swept under the rug because of players like Kyler Murray, like Russell Wilson, like Lamar Jackson. He's not flashy. But Derek Carr, man, Derek Carr has been among the elite in completion percentage, in quarterback rating. If I were to tell you right now that Derek Carr's quarterback rating was 112.8, what would you tell me?
I think you're crazy, but you're probably right.
Third in the NFL behind only Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Okay? Completion percentage. Derek Carr, third in the NFL, only behind Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater. He's throwing the ball at 72% completion. Okay? Absurd. Their offense is being run by a perfect game manager right now. He is managing the game better than anyone in the league. He's doing his job better than anybody in the league right now, quarterback. He does what he's supposed to do. He's not flashy. He's not overly good at it, but he's doing what they need him to do. That offense needs him to put the ball in a place where the wide receivers can catch it. They're not asking him to go over the top of the defense. They have Josh Jacobs to run the ball up the middle and get them yards that way.
He can go over the top of the defense. We've seen it with Ruggs.
Exactly.
But that's Ruggs' job to get open.
Yeah, they're not asking too much of him, and I think he's doing what he needs to do very well this year. And on the other side of it, I think the Browns are horrible. You saw Baker Mayfield come out last week after his 2 picks, going 0 for 5 in the first quarter, I believe?
Close to his first 3 possessions.
Almost the first quarter. Comes roaring back against a terrible Cincinnati team, puts up ungodly numbers, and then sits at the podium like he's a god. I'm kind of done with the whole Baker Mayfield beating a bad team, putting up good numbers, and acting like he's, Joe Montana. It doesn't really resonate well with me. I know we've joked around about the Baker Mayfield cycle.
Happens all the time.
Calls out haters, plays bad teams, performs well. Next week he plays a good team. I think the Raiders really are a good team. They beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. Tough game this past week against the Bucs, but I think he's going to come and lose here, continue the Baker cycle. I love Derek Carr. I love Josh Jacobs. Give me the Raiders here, plus 2.5. I like them to win the game.
Yeah, I agree with the Raiders pick. I think they also win the game. I've been a Baker Mayfield defender. I don't know how much longer I can defend him. Case Keenum's knocking on that door. I'm sorry. My pick, and it's not a homer pick, I swear, is the Patriots plus 3.5 against Buffalo. If you had told me 2 weeks ago that the Patriots would be 3.5-point underdogs against the Buffalo Bills, I would have called you crazy. Yeah. I don't care where the game is. I know the game's in Buffalo, but Buffalo's not going to have fans at that game. Not up in New York. Buffalo's not going to have fans at that game. There's going to be no advantage, almost no advantage, to being in Buffalo. We know the Patriots are well equipped to play in cold weather, so that does not matter. Now, let me take you through something. Buffalo's offense is run pretty much exclusively by Josh Allen. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss have been almost irrelevant on the ground this year. I know Devin Singletary is quickly losing that job.
They've been horrible. Zach Moss has been he's been the better back.
So I think that the Patriots very bad actually, 132 rushing yards per game. I think that the Patriots' run defense will be able to be hidden in this one. The Bills, on the other hand, 126 yards per game. Not like they were anything astounding. The Patriots like to run the ball. I think that they'll be able to do so on Sunday. The Patriots' passing defense, as we know, has been good. It will always be good when the Patriots have that secondary. They're allowing just 228 yards per game, while the Bills sit at 232, also eerily similar. Josh Allen, in his career against the Patriots, 48.42 completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Not great. Give me the Pats plus 3.5. I think they shut down Josh Allen. We know Bill Belichick takes away the biggest weapon in each game. I don't think it's Stephon Diggs in this one. I think it's Josh Allen. I think he takes him out of the game, forces the Bills to either run the ball or throw up Hail Marys to Stephon Diggs. Pats win the game.
Perfect. Next year, I'm going to have the Saints on the road going into Chicago, Soldier Field, and winning by the 4.5. And my reasoning behind this has more to do with the Bears, I think, than the Saints. I think the Saints are as capable as they've been in the past. I know it's been kind of a weird year for them. They haven't been as prolific on offense because I think people want to say Drew Brees, all that, but
right.
I really still do love Alvin Kamara. I think Michael Thomas missing in that offense has really been an issue for them.
Mhm.
So I'm going to take the Saints here because the Bears, I believe, are at the beginning of their exposure. I think they got exposed.
I agree. I think they got exposed the other night against the Rams. I think the Rams were the way better team, and we liked the Bears in that game.
That's what I'm saying.
We were fooled.
I love the Bears, and I'd love to take them here against the Saints, but I think they've started to be exposed. Everyone's been on their defense, right? Their defense is so amazing.
Yeah.
They got picked apart last week against the Rams.
You'd say so?
I'd say so.
I think they did, because a lot of the fourth quarter, the Rams were just running on the clock.
Yeah, I don't think they played very well last week, and their offense has proven to be absolutely horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They have no run game, especially without Tariq Cohen. Montgomery is seeming to be more and more like a mediocre player. I know he's, in theory, fantasy-wise, every week you say, "Oh, David Montgomery, he's only back there. He's the only guy back there." David Montgomery is not everything you think he is. I think their inability to move the ball, Nick Foles, who just is only good in the Super Bowl. I really can't see them winning this game against a high-profile offense. Alvin Kamara, that type of team. Give me the Saints by a touchdown here. Saints minus 4.5.
How about 3 touchdowns? Because that's what I like the Kansas City Chiefs by to beat the Jets this weekend. Minus 19.5.
There you go.
The Jets are awful. So I have a question for everybody here. So I guess you're the only one here, so I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are the Chiefs going to put up 27 points in this game?
Yeah, and the Jets aren't putting up 10.
The Jets are not putting up 10. It's as simple as that. The Chiefs are going to put up 27. I was going to say the Jets are going to put up 7 max. I wasn't even going to say 10.
They're going to score 7 here.
I think they could score 7 maybe in the fourth quarter when the Chiefs have all of their starters out.
Yeah, fair.
The Chiefs have been really impressive through the air this year. And the Jets have a 87-year-old man in the backfield along with a rookie. So I'm not really worried about them on the ground. The Chiefs' run defense has obviously been the weakness of this defense so far. But the pass defense is actually 4th best in the league by yards per game, giving up just 211. That number is only going to be helped this week by Sam Darnold and the awful Jets passing attack. I love the Chiefs here. We know what their offense can do. Their offense is going to be fantastic against an awful Jets secondary. The Chiefs are probably going to put up like 5 touchdowns in the first, I was going to say half, 3 quarters. 5 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters. I don't think that the Jets score much at all. So give me the Chiefs minus whatever. It doesn't even matter, but 19.5 for now.
Perfect. And my last pick here for the NFL and for the week is going to be on the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill. I think less than a touchdown here to them is disrespectful. Cincinnati, I believe, is getting way too much credit from the public for that game against Cleveland. Cleveland overall, I believe, is the most fake team in the NFL, followed by Chicago. I think Cleveland, their record is completely the opposite of how they've played so far. I think they had a very easy schedule to start. Mm-hmm. It's going to continue to go downhill for them. Like we said about Baker, we don't love Baker. Defense is all right. I think the Titans are going to go in there and put up 30 like they've been doing on everybody. Their offense has been amazing as so far. Ryan Tannehill's been above average, like more than you could expect from him. I think the Titans are probably more than a touchdown better than the Cincinnati Bengals in pretty much every aspect.
I agree.
I know people are loving Joe Burrow so far.
I do love Joe Burrow.
500 yards last week in a shootout of a game, but I don't see that happening every week. I don't see Cincinnati doing anything crazy against this Titans team. Give me the Titans here, especially with Derrick Henry. He's going to run all over that defense.
Yeah, that's a game that I could go either way on just because it's so big and the Bengals are at home. But I don't think they're going to have fans at that game. If so, they'll have minimal fans. And I think that Ryan Tannehill is the deciding. Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry are the deciding factors. Also for the Titans, getting Corey Davis and AJ Brown back has been huge for that.
AJ Brown has been a beast. He is elite.
He is. It's as simple as that. He's a wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
My last pick of the weekend is going to be focused more around defense. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers +4 on the road at Baltimore. I think Baltimore is good, but you were just talking about fake teams, and I don't think that Baltimore is a top tier, and by top tier I mean serious contender for the Super Bowl, like I think that Pittsburgh and Kansas City are. Beginning of the year, I picked Baltimore to lose in the second round to Pittsburgh, so why not keep it going with Pittsburgh right here? I think that the Steelers' run defense is what's going to come into play here, as the Steelers' run defense is second, giving up just 68 yards per game to a team that we know loves to run. Mark Ingram's on the injury report. He did not practice today, so I think that's something to monitor as well. Obviously, they have Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins back there, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. But if the Steelers' defense, which is, in my opinion, a top 2 or 3, maybe even top 1 defense in the league right now, can somewhat contain Lamar Jackson's legs, much like Kansas City was able to do, I think that Pittsburgh wins the game outright. And I think that they'll be able to. I mean, 68 yards per game is nothing to slouch at. It's them and the Bucs for run defense. Give me Pittsburgh +4. I'm excited to watch this game, and they're going to kill it.
Perfect. I think all we have left to do is to kind of just give over a recap of all of our picks.
Absolutely.
Just so if you guys wanted to skip to the end of the video, whatever you wanted to do, we could give you our picks in a quicker fashion. So I'm going to start off. My first pick of the week was Tulsa -17, followed up by West Virginia -3.5. Then following that was Iowa State -28.5. And my lock of the week in college football, my most confident, was Texas Tech Oklahoma over 68.5. Moving on to NFL, my 3 picks were the Raiders +2.5, the Saints -4.5, and the Titans -6. And Dickie, you want to go over your
I
picks?
just noticed that was all favorites and an over. Very, very interesting.
It was
for me
all
right there.
favorites
It was
and
all
over.
favorites
I
and
just
an
didn't
over.
realize
Very
that.
interesting. I'm going to go with Wake Forest -11. I love that one. I mean, they're all my favorites, but Wake Forest -11. Charlotte +10. They're the same team as Duke. Give me Penn State +12 in a pick that I love, and I love it because you love Ohio State, and I just got to go against you on something. And finally, my final CFB pick was Oklahoma State -3. That's my favorite pick of the week. I think that they're going to roll Texas. Texas, horns down. Finally, in the NFL, I have the Chiefs minus whatever the number is going to end up at, but right now it's 19.5, so give me that. Give me the Patriots +3.5. I promise I'm not a homer. And give me the Steelers +4. Love Big Ben in this spot. Love the defense. That's all I got.
Perfect.
So for another week of Line It Up in the books, please follow us on Twitter at LineItUp4, where you will see this video, or on SoundCloud for the audio at LineItUp4. Nick and I will be back next week, hopefully with Gus, maybe not. If
Hopefully
not,
with some winning picks.
hopefully with some winning picks. We'll be for sure doing a recap. It was a pretty good week for me last week. I think I went 3-1 on the show, but it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, everybody. Stay tuned for more Line It Up in the weeks to follow, and best of luck on your picks this weekend.
Good luck this week, guys.